Did you ever put yourself in a position where you felt you wanted to or needed to apologize to someone on the 49ers? And if not, were there 49ers who initially thought that you were just a jerk out to get them that you later developed relationships with?
Yes, I would say answer to both is yes.
Okay.
I've had occasion where I've apologized, and I've had occasion where things just work themselves out. So I'll give you two examples.
Okay.
And one you're intimately familiar with is with Eddie DeBartolo and me.
Right.
When Eddie became the owner, he and I we're about the same age. He and I were both young men, and both A-type personalities, and didn't get along at all. And in fact, I wrote some scathing things about Eddie, any number of things, that in retrospect, maybe I didn't have the best judgment. One I remember in particular, he had gotten into a big fight with Dianne Feinstein about Candlestick Park. She was the mayor of San Francisco. And he really, I thought, came off pretty badly. So I wrote a column and I called him Little Prince Eddie in it. And did you know that, Iggy?
Yes, but it's been a while.
Little Prince Eddie.
Wow.
And I really put him down.
Did you say like he banged his little fist on the table or something?
All of that,
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
Oh,
boy, you could really groin a guy, Dad. Jeez.
I know.
Wow.
The artist of the Chronicle put a little cape around his shoulders.
That's fantastic.
So he hated me from that. And I want to say, Iggy, rightfully so.
Right. I mean, I would hate you too.
I mean, I'm 74 years old now. Of course he should have hated me.
Yeah, that was.
I hated me.
Yeah.
So anyway, Iggy, a few years ago, I don't remember how many years ago it was, Carmen Policy got elected to the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. Was that about 3 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Carmen and I are good friends.
Yeah.
So Carmen had a plaque, and you have to have text on the plaque that you're in, that shows you're in with your face and all that. And he asked me to write the text, which was quite an honor. So I wrote it, and I think I did a pretty good job. I spoke to Paul Tagliabue and a lot of other people about him. And so you and I go to this hotel, to this big ballroom, and as we enter, Carmen comes running over and he says, Eddie's here because he's going to be my presenter. And he said, why did you have Lowell write the text? Essentially, Lowell's not nice, and I don't see how you could be friends with him. And I think Carmen was kind of chuckling about it. So anyway, the whole thing happened. It went on for hours, and Eddie did a beautiful speech for Carmen. Eddie's very clever. You know that, right?
Of course. Yes.
So after it was all over, I said, Iggy, we really need to talk to Eddie. So the room was clearing out. Eddie was standing below the dais. And as you know, a lot of people were talking to him. It's like he's a senator or something. Yeah. And we very humbly waited. And finally, we were the last ones. He wanted to go. We walked over and I said, hi, Eddie. Hi, Lowell. So I introduced you because you and he had talked on the phone and had a very nice conversation for an article you were writing. And he said, Lowell, I want you to know that you've done a beautiful job of bringing up Grant. It was so sweet. And I said, look, Carmen told me you wondered, why I wrote the text for him. I said, Eddie, we're old men now. We can be friends. And I said, when I wrote all that stuff about you, I was a young man and I was a douchebag. And Eddie looked at me and he got the sweetest smile on his face. And he said, you know what, Lowell? I was a douchebag too. And he said, there's no reason two former douchebags can't be friends. And we hugged each other, and that was it. So that's where I apologize.
See, maybe me and Dante Pettis will have a two former douchebag moment in 40 years. Hey, you're that douchebag that used to cover me. Yeah, you're that douchebag that used to play. I love you. Let's be friends.
I suppose we can say douchebag on this. It's not really a dirty word. It's in the dictionary. Anyway, so that's the former douchebag story, which it kills me. It kills me, that story. Yeah. And I love Eddie for it. He had to make a bigger leap to me than I had to do to him.
Okay.
The other is about Jerry Rice. And I've never really written this, but it just sticks in my mind and shows, again, how Jerry was when he played and how I was. Jerry was, could have been maybe the greatest football player who ever lived. And he had a really big ego when he was a player. I'm saying, Iggy, he had an ego as big as Texas, okay?
Wow.
And I remember Jimmy Lefevre, when he used to coach for the Giants and the A's, said there are certain superstars that have part of their being a superstar is having a big ego. They have
Right.
to. They have to feel when I get up at the plate like Barry
Right.
Bonds, I'm going to crush
Yeah.
it. They have to. And he said, as a coach, your job is to massage the ego, not to put it
Right.
down. So Bill Walsh knew that Jerry had a big ego. Everybody
Right.
knew, but it was part of his
And he earned
greatness.
it.
Okay. Oh
And he earned
God.
it. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
certain
He
social
wasn't like
situations,
Brandon Lloyd calling himself the prince when he was 23 years old. People don't know that story, but keep going.
okay, so he earned it, of course, but it would make social interaction sometimes a little difficult. So this one story, I don't even know if you know it. It was in Santa Clara, but it was a long time ago. At lunchtime, all the players would be there. It's not like it was during the Harbaugh years. And we were with Brent Jones because Brent is so sweet. He was always talking, right? So Ira Miller was sitting on a stool, and I was sitting on a stool, and so here's Brent. Blah, 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 blah. Now, Jerry was angry about something Ira wrote. I have no idea what Ira wrote. So he comes, and he's about 10 feet from us, and he goes, Ira, I want to talk to you like that. Oh, jeez. Because he had this big
Right.
ego. Like, you got to stop whatever you're doing and talk to me right now.
Right.
Ira, I want to talk.
Like he's Pablo
And
Escobar or something, right? Yeah. Like he's
Exactly.
Don Corleone.
So Ira, who has a lot more guts than I do, and I got a lot of guts, he looks at him and he goes, listen in this tone of voice, Jerry, you can see I'm talking to Brent now. When I'm done with Brent, I'll get back to you. And I just thought, well, first, here's what happened. Let me just describe what happened. Jerry could not understand that anything like that would happen. He stood there not knowing what to do.
Right, because he could yell at Eddie DeBartolo like that and probably get a quicker response, right? Yeah, yep.
He was in suspended animation.
Yeah.
Now here's Brent Jones. Iggy, he dropped his head. He looked at the floor and he was probably thinking, I don't want to get involved.
I'm going to have to answer to Jerry for this.
Kill each other. These two guys could kill each other right now. I don't want to get involved. And me, I'm looking like I'm 11 years old in the playground and the big kids are going to have a fight. You know what I mean?
It's going down.
It's going down. Anyway, I guess, but later, in years later, Jerry, when he didn't have to be a superstar anymore, when he became like all of us, a normal person, he and Ira are great friends. You were saying earlier, if Ira still lived around here, I'm sure they'd play golf together.
Right.
And when, because you've seen me with Jerry, Jerry is really friendly with me. And in front of you one time, I praised him and he said, that means a lot to me coming from you. So what I want to say, that's the other example. Now, the story about Ira was not a story about me, but I didn't get along with Jerry that much either. But later, you simply work through it. And part of it is growing up to be mature individuals. And when I was younger, I was far from a mature individual.
Well, I got something to add to that. From the athlete's perspective, it must be tough to understand what to make of sports writers. You got most of them who are trying to be your friend, but aren't your friend. And some of them, like me and you, who are not trying to be your friend. And they're critical. And it's like, well, what does that mean? But from the athlete's perspective, I think most of the media people who kiss up to athletes and try to be their friend aren't doing it because they like the athlete. It's because the athlete's famous and it could benefit the media person by maybe having a source, or maybe they could write a book about that person. They could potentially profit off of a relationship. We have never tried to profit off of a relationship with a coach or a player, ever. And I think that once players figure out where we're coming from, they respect that.
I think they do respect it. And in a sense, what we do is more honest.